and welcome to So You Think You're Awake, the show about life transformation through dream interpretation. I'm Michael Sheridan. That sounds very simple, doesn't it? Life transformation through dream interpretation. But that's really what dream interpretation does. It tells you what is at the most core thing of all the things you need to do in your life. This is what you need to do next. This is going to give you the biggest gain in your life in transforming all the pains, everything that's around you into being something better, into you seeing the world in a different way, into you becoming a better person, a more spiritual person, which is really what life is about. Anyway, that's I digress from my normal. Normally I say that on this show, through analyzing your dreams, I reveal your potential and the obstacles you need to overcome. I'm very specific. I tell you the magic power you have, what makes you magnificent, and the bumps in life that are holding you back. These bumps are not in the way, they are the way. And that's really it. The bumps really are the way. The things that we often look at life and we say, I would be great only for this. I would be the world's best at helping people do this only for the fact that I'm super shy, and I'm super shy because of the way I was treated in childhood. And we have all these reasons why we don't do the thing. And it's like the world is missing out on my superpower because of these other things that the world did to me. And really, that's not it at all. We came here to grow. Yes, the world may be missing out on your superpower, but we came here to grow. And the way we grow is by facing the obstacles that are in our path, by dealing with those so they are no longer obstacles. And that's where we get our growth. And then when we have our growth, you can help other people to grow using whatever abilities you have. Not abilities that somebody else tells you you should use, but the abilities that you came here to use in order to help other people. It's an amazing system, but we come here to grow spiritually and take that growth with us. It's the only thing we take. We don't get to take our 401k or anything like that. We didn't come here. We didn't sit on the astral plane, or we didn't sit in the spirit world and say, I need to plan a lifetime where I can get the best pension. And, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold out for the best pension. But we come here and we switch into thinking that that's what our life is about. No, I can't retire. I have another 5 years and then I get this great pension. That's not it at all. That couldn't be further from the mark. We came here to take risks, to do the things that we need to do in order to grow. And that's what we take with us. We don't take the pension. Anyway, I'm involved in lots and lots of different things, but there was one thing recently that it has a kind of a dark leaning on it, and it's because of the types of crime that was involved. And I was discussing it with people, but anyway, later on, I was mulling this over in my mind, and I was asking my guides, who is it better to help? The victim or the perpetrator? And that's not really the way I was mulling it over. Obviously you help the victim, and that's the easy answer. Help the victim. But do you let the perpetrator rot in jail for the rest of their life? As is the way most of society views really horrific crimes, that the perpetrator of these crimes should just be locked away and never see the light of day again. And my guides had a completely different perspective that I'd never thought about, but it's very, very simple. And they said, you help the perpetrator. And even though you must help the perpetrator, obviously help the victim, but you must help the perpetrator, even though it's going to take a lot more effort and a lot more people and a lot more time. The way they said it is, if you help the victim, you assure yourself of a fresh supply of more victims. That's if you only help the victim. If you help the perpetrator, then you are ensuring that you are turning off the tap of future victims. And it's so simple, it's obvious. It's absolutely true. If you help to rehabilitate or reform the perpetrator, they're not going to create more victims. And it's not just victims in this lifetime, it's victims in future lifetimes. And so it makes absolute sense that we must help the perpetrators. But I never saw it or thought of it in such a crystal clear way before. Anyway, I kind of was wishing that this was a discussion show and a discussion panel to see what other people thought about that, because I don't hold a perfect view on this. I wouldn't have thought that way before. Certainly, I know we're meant to help the perpetrators. I know guides will say that they don't even have jails in the spirit world. It's just not the way to help anybody. But it's very hard to have that perspective here. Anyway, it's interesting. So let's move on. Let's have a look at some dreams. This first dream comes in from Mary. She says, I see corn being planted in tall rows. I'm in a game like a hunt. So obviously it's a corn maze. She says, we're in a maze and my weapons are vegetables instead of bullets. I have bits of corn. I have a weapon that's like a USB stick. I stick it in the corn cob to load the corn kernel. And then if someone comes around the corner in the maze, I stick them with it. Isn't it interesting? Many times she says, stick, stick, stick. I have a dog who is also on my side. And, okay, so she's in a maze. So this is a puzzle. This is a puzzle you got to figure out. And she says, I used some regular GMO cornstarch in a recipe the other day. Maybe that's why this dream. Should I throw away the leftovers? And the answer is absolutely. After this dream, absolutely. And one of the saddest parts about this dream is you say, I used regular cornstarch, and she puts GMO in brackets. And I can tell you, this is mostly an North American thing. That would not be the regular cornstarch in Europe. We think that this is normal. It's not. So, the GMO means that a scientist has changed it in some way and said, hey, humans grew up alongside, evolved alongside all the plants and animals and other things on this planet that we use to survive. And scientists have come along and said, we know how to fix this and make it better. Fix what? It's already the perfect thing for us. And I'm not against science, and I don't know the merits behind, is modifying a thing good or bad. But I do know some of them, for instance, that they put certain traits, certain genes in infant formula. That is formula that is GMO in America, that is banned in the rest of the world because it destroys an infant's stomach. And the reason it destroys an infant's stomach is because what they put in is stuff that will explode the stomach of insects and other things that attack the crops and so on. It's disgusting. It's horrible. But that also destroys our own infant children's stomachs. But, I don't research that. I researched that one because of circumstance around my own grandkid. But in this dream, then, obviously, the dream is saying you shouldn't be eating this because it's going to get you stuck. Look at them. How many times do you say stick? If I'm looking at this on the page, you say USB stick, you stick it into the corn cob, and then if someone comes around the corner, you stick them with it too. And then you have a dog that's also on your side. Why the dog? So the dog is saying, trust your body. Trust your body. That's what it's about. Dogs are about loyalty and being your best friend and always on your side. So trust your body. Your body's going to tell you what's good and bad for you. And you're going to end up getting stuck in the maze if you eat this. So, and you have, which is why it's showing up. And vegetables are your friend, just like the dog. Vegetables are your friend, but healthy vegetables. So interesting dream, isn't it? Interesting the way it showed up. And the USB stick, of course, that's about having a memory. So it's like, it's not just what you eat the day before. It's like, how long are things going to stick around? So if you eat the wrong type of food that's not good for you, then it's going to impact you for a significant period of time going forward. All right, let's move on. Another dream. I'm trying to figure out what to wear with my jeans. I can't decide whether between a white shirt and a red shirt. Kate comes to tell me that Michael, that's me, is there in a van to drive me to a school where we are teaching, and he's picking me up. So if I'm in a dream and I represent, say, having a spiritual perspective or a spiritual career, let's say, then that's what it means for this person. And the van, the reason I said spiritual career is because that's what a van represents. So the dreamer has a spiritual career, and she's trying to decide between two things. And her decision is given by the colors of the shirts. And the jeans are a casual thing. So it's like, okay, how do I go forward? Do I put myself forward as perfect, which is what the white's about, or as fun-loving, which is what the red's about? Now, white can be about other things. White can be about confidence and and so on, but enlightened. And yeah, so it's going to be enlightened or perfect. That's what it's going to be for this dreamer. So do I go across, do I put myself across this way, or do I put myself across as casual and fun-loving and just having fun with the whole thing? And I would go with that latter one, especially because of the genes, because the genes are like a casual thing. So we know that that's already part of the answer. And it's also that this is part of your makeup, if you think genes and genetics, like we were talking about in the other dream. So I'm there to pick you up. And Kate, your daughter, says that I'm there, but I can only wait 2 more minutes. And she says, I finally just throw on one shirt. I think it's the white one, but I'm not sure. And I'm finally running out, and I hear him in the van starting to back out to leave. And I yell out to him, and he sees me and stops. But now, as I'm trying to get to the van, my body becomes like lead, and every step is incredibly difficult. And there's a bunch of kids in the van, she also says. So this is about you putting pressure on yourself when it comes to your spiritual career. And that the dream is saying, stop putting the pressure on yourself. That's the whole thing. Have fun with this. Don't be putting pressure on yourself about this. And don't be feeling that if I make the wrong choice, I've messed things up. It's about relaxing, enjoying, having fun. And you put pressure on yourself, like when you get nearly at so here's the thing. When you decide, here's what I'm going to do, you still put pressure on yourself for the decision you haven't made, for the other. What if it's that? What if it's that? And that's why your body becomes like lead as you get closer to the van, because you haven't really made the decision and let go of the other one. And really, it's interesting. Life is all about making decisions, because if you make the wrong decision, if you make it quickly and you allow yourself to make quick decisions, you can spot, hey, this is the wrong decision. I'm going to make the other one. I'm going to change my mind. The difficulty and where we get stuck in life is when we refuse to change our mind, refuse to make decisions. But anyway, this also goes back to childhood, because we have a bunch of kids in the van. And so the difficulty with moving forward comes from issues in childhood. And so this is part of your obstacle. Why do I get caught in this conundrum? Why do I feel like this binary choice is so difficult for me? Why is it so difficult? And the difficulty comes from childhood. So you working on the issues that make those difficult, that ease those difficult decisions, or the ability to make them. That's where your growth is still. But anyway, interesting dream. We move on again, and we have Eve, and she says, in waking life, I work with and love all reptiles, including snakes. Ew. I do not know how you do that. Now, I have nothing against small reptiles, like geckos and things like that, but snakes, I do not like. Yes, I've probably handled snakes at some point, but not really something I'd like to do. Anyway, here's the dream. I was really upset because a book about killing snakes was about to be released, like maybe from a powerful, bad political group. The publication would reach many people. I was fighting back tears as I was telling my mother this, because it would do so much to hurt the snakes. So to retaliate, the Biologists Club made a really large, physically oversized photo book about beautiful snakes and released it a few days before the other one was due to be released, so as to protect the fragile species and show the world they were good. It was only $1. Okay, so there's a million things in that dream. And of course, because you like snakes, it's going to be hard for you to interpret, because you're like, why would anybody do this? So if you step back from a bit, the first thing that's obvious in the dream is your mom shows up in the dream. So therefore, because we have you talking about being hurt in the same sentence as you introduce your mom, you say, I was telling my mom this because it would do so much hurt. So we know that there's issues around your mom that you need to heal in order, to heal from pain in your past. Dreams exaggerate, just like you with the oversized book, they exaggerate. And then you also say that you want to release this book so as to protect the fragile species. So it means that this is about you protecting yourself and about you being fragile. We're all fragile. We all are vulnerable in certain ways. There's always a light that we can shine on ourselves in some way that will expose what makes us feel vulnerable and so on. And dreams are always about you being comfortable in showing your vulnerable side. And it requires a lot of growth, a lot of work on yourself to get to that point. And I'm not saying you haven't worked on yourself, but this is something that you need to do, work on the issues around mom that cause you to feel hurt. But what is a really positive thing that's very obvious in the dream? So you have this like big, powerful political group that you mentioned, that their publication is going to reach many, right? And so you have the ability, because of the way you introduce your oversized book, it says that you have the ability to change paradigm views through projecting your thoughts. And so a paradigm view is like, hey, the earth is flat. And then it's accepted as flat for centuries and centuries. And then suddenly somebody comes along and says, hey, it's round and here's why. And very quickly it snaps and everybody like, yeah, it's round. Anybody who thinks it's flat is crazy. But a prevailing view that held for so long, you have the ability to change those prevailing views in people's minds, even when the person involved is heavily influenced by others. And that's your gift. Your thoughts stand out just like the oversized book on the shelf would. They stand out. So it's really cool. So I wanted to point that out. A really positive thing, ability that you have. But the other thing is working on fixing the pain. Like you talk about retaliation. To retaliate, the Biologists Club made a really large book. So there's something about retaliation and trying to protect yourself in advance of things. If I do this, this, and this, I won't get hurt. And so that's what you got to look at. The scenarios in your childhood that caused you to have that view of life. Protect yourself in advance, because obviously life is about being comfortable being who you are, and not having to protect yourself. It's like, it's funny. My good friend Neil Keys in Ireland, he's an amazing counsellor. He's retired a while now, but one of the best things he teaches people is don't ever try and change somebody's view about you. If you have a partner, for instance, that goes around saying all sorts of negative things about you and people buy into it, let that happen. Don't try to change that, because you can spend the whole rest of your life trying to undo what somebody else is doing, and that's not what your life is about. I'm not saying that's what your thing is, but when we can let go of our fears and the things that we feel are exposing us, and really just embrace life, we really get our life back. So yeah, I probably digressed or muddied the waters there, but Eve, I hope that makes sense in some way. So our next dream, just checking the time, our next dream is from, I don't know, can I say this name? Sonali. I presume I can, because people give me pseudonyms, so a lot of the time the names aren't accurate, but they know who they are. Anyway, she says, realizing about these dreams and then feeling like I cannot visit there makes me anxious. She's talking about South Korea, like I'm just wasting time and delaying it. And here's the dream. I used to have this dream, or multiple dreams, and still do, but it's not that frequent. Like these places, like lots of greenery, hills, an old building perhaps of stone structure near a lake or a stream, and trees around it like autumn leaves. It's not all the same place or one dream, but recurring dreams. It's like there is a place that has all these physical traits. This place is calling me, like someone or something is waiting for me. Like if I go there, I will meet someone or find something, like part of me maybe from another life. But yeah, it's just calling me. And she also says, and I think this place is South Korea. It's like I said, it's not a dream, but I have this nagging feeling somewhere behind my mind that I will see all these places in South Korea. And I channeled on this, and what I get is that it's an amalgamation of all these places. So if you did go there, I think you would see an amalgamation of all these. You would enjoy it, but it's not necessarily those exact locations. And it reminded me that my friend Jackie had always wanted to go to Japan forever. Always wanted to go to Japan. And she had a profound experience while there. But yet the experience was related to this lifetime. And I asked her, what was the closure that it gave her? Was it a closure from a past life? And she said, no, it turned out to be closure for this life. I'd made a promise to my younger self to go and didn't fulfill my promise until I turned 50. And I did not realize how much guilt and grief I carried about this until I was there. And it was an incredibly healing trip. But healing about anger at my younger self for making a promise that I never kept. And so it's interesting. Of course, it's still healing because it helped her heal anger from her childhood, which is exactly what our life is about. Healing. We come here to heal so that we can then go back to the spirit world without the big issues that we came here with. So yeah, I mean, we can't really interpret that, but it's an interesting enough one to include on the show. And thanks for sharing it. And you will have a terrific time if you ever do go to South Korea. It's not a place that calls me, but my son has been there and can't wait to go back. And it was just, the people are amazing. Just such an interesting place to be. So here we have a dream from Sarah, and she says, I had the dream in August 2018, and I had similar since, where I pray for people that seem to have evil around or in them. Okay, so we're going into one of those dreams. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I picked this dream because, yeah, it just came in during the week, but it also matched in with the question I had about the start. Do you help perpetrators? Do you help people who are lost? Put it that way. Do you help people who are victims, or do you help people who are lost? Of course, you help both. And anyway, me and two of my high school friends were walking down the road with backpacks, getting ready to get into an old hotel where it was known that you could get in, but not guaranteed that you will come out. So backpacks tell us that this is about baggage from the past, because that's what a backpack is about. And hotels are about birth. So this is going to be about baggage that you take with you, that you have at birth. So this is about past life stuff, because you haven't built up anything else. You haven't been here long enough. You haven't started living your life. So therefore, if you've got baggage from a former life, it shows up this kind of way in a dream that you have, because you're going into the hotel with the backpack on. That's why I say that. Anyway, in the dream, I know that a young man has been lost in there for years. We get in, and there's a girl at the reception with a book, and apparently we had to write down a dedication. So the reception is about your reception at birth. So you brought something into this lifetime. Well, you've got another ability that I'll mention in a moment. I start writing, and the girl at the reception turns into a guy, and I'm not surprised, unlike my friends, because I know we are in the past, and my dedication disappears from the book. Then she's gone into the past life, or kind of a little bit different. Then we start exploring the rooms. The atmosphere is dark and the rooms look abandoned, and there is stuff on the floor everywhere. Suddenly I see two people, a mother and a son, holding hands, and they were really tall. And I look away and look again, and they become shorter, and I understand they are not alive. I ask them, why don't you go towards the light? And they don't answer. They just say they want me to pray for them, and so I do. Then they leave, still holding hands, and tell me that it's not over and there are people worse than them. Now, she doesn't say at this part of the dream, like, what did these people do? Did they do anything to her? She doesn't say. And usually anybody who's tall in a dream is a guide, so they don't really show up as negative. And so I channeled on that. So it's a limitation, because they go from tall to short. And so what I got was that you need to overcome the impact of losing your son in a former life. That's the backpack that you carried in, and then the reception and turning into the guy and all that. That's why this happens. But work you did in that lifetime makes you particularly good at helping lost souls, spirits stuck on the astral plane. So the astral plane is the place we travel. We go there when we leave our bodies while we're on the earth plane, and we can meet spirits there. We can meet other people who are alive, because they also go there too. And when you have dreams with dialogue, I often point this out, that they aren't actually dreams. It's you remembering conversations that you had while on the astral plane. So we all go there. We all go there all the time. We talk to our guides. We talk to all sorts of enlightened, wise beings while there. And we also talk to complete morons. And it can all show up in our dreams. So anyway, you have a special ability to traverse the astral plane. It's huge. And so your ability is in your sleep, you help people who've been lost for centuries or decades. And that's why we have these past life things and this theme recurring in your dreams, where you're trying to help people who are evil. And so people can get lost and they can become very negative. And you can think of it as an evil thing, but it's not really. My sister, I had a sister who used to specifically help people who were lost. And quite often they will build up these defense mechanisms to keep other spirits from them. And so they might come across or come at you, like charge at you, like with a lion's head, or appear very angry and evil. But it's really because they don't fully understand where they are, and they've just devised mechanisms that help them survive that plane. But your ability is to get in there, not be fazed by these things, and help people and turn them to the light, which is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, what do you say? You say, me and my friends tried to find the exit to the hotel, and there are people everywhere. We find an elevator, and every time we go in, we just go back on the outside of it like we're stuck in a loop. And that's exactly what happens to these people. They get stuck in a loop based on their belief systems, and it doesn't help them in any way. Negative belief systems. So that's what they have to overcome quite often. Anyway, but you're aware that you're stuck in this loop. These people aren't. They can be there for, like I said, centuries. So then I get on my knees and looking up with my hands up and opened and my back arched, and I pray at the top of my lungs the Lord's Prayer, and I feel a really strong power. After that, the atmosphere is not dark anymore, but tranquil. And instead, the hotel turns into a very big boat, like a cruise ship, and everybody around me looks normal. So that's really good. So you have the ability to help people by changing the energy, the space, the fear, removing the fear from where they're at, and then help them to move to the light. Now, in your case, it shows up as you saying the Lord's Prayer and being religious, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. But that's what it signifies, going to the light. We then get to a port where we land on a wooden planks, and there I walk by a guy that interrupts me. He's digging a hole, and he shakes my hand and thanks me. He's dressed like it's the 1800s. And I look around, and there's a building with graffiti in a language I don't know, maybe modern Greek. I ask him where we are, and he tells me the 1800s. And I assume we're in the past, and I know he is the guy that has been lost for years. I worry about how I'll get home, and the dream ends there. So again, your ability is to help people who've been lost for a long time, and they do thank you, and that's exactly how it shows up. And now we're out of time. Thank you for listening. I'm Michael Sheridan. I will see you next week.